Las Vegas, a city of lights, glamour, and untold riches. It was in this dazzling playground that Ted Binion, heir to the Horseshoe Casino fortune, reigned supreme. Born into wealth and privilege, Binion seemed destined to inherit the city's legacy of risk and reward.
The Binion name was synonymous with the Horseshoe, a casino empire built by my father, Benny Binion.
Ted, with his charming demeanor and sharp business acumen, was poised to carry the torch. He reveled in the opulent lifestyle that came with his family name. Ted was a fixture in the city's most exclusive circles. He was known for his extravagant parties and his love of high-stakes gambling. Beautiful women flocked to him, drawn to his charisma and wealth.
I had it all: money, power, and a name that commanded respect and envy in equal measure.
But beneath the surface of Ted's charmed life lurked a darkness. His world was one of excess and indulgence. He battled personal demons, struggling with addiction and a penchant for risky behavior. The casino world, with its constant temptations and shadowy underbelly, had a way of amplifying both the highs and the lows. As Ted would soon discover, the same city that had brought him such fortune could also swallow him whole, leaving nothing behind. On September 17, 1998, the Las Vegas sun beat down on a city accustomed to secrets. The city, known for its glitz and glamour, was about to be rocked by a scandal that would reveal the darker side of its glittering facade. It was a day like any other, but inside a modest ranch house far from the Strip, a tragedy had unfolded. This house, unassuming and quiet, was now the epicenter of a mystery that would captivate the nation. Ted Binion, the casino heir, lay dead. A man who had once been the life of the party, a fixture in the high-stakes world of Las Vegas gambling, was now a lifeless body. The discovery of his lifeless body sent shockwaves through the city. News reporters flocked to the scene, and the public was left in a state of disbelief.
It wasn't just the death itself that was shocking, but the circumstances surrounding it. The details that began to emerge were stranger than fiction. Ted was found in his den, sprawled on the floor in an awkward position. His body, twisted and contorted, suggested a struggle or something more sinister. An empty bottle of Xanax lay near his outstretched hand. The presence of the bottle raised immediate questions about the cause of death.
The scene at first glance suggested a possible drug overdose, but something wasn't right. The more the investigators looked, the more inconsistencies they found. The scene felt staged, almost too perfect. The meticulous arrangement of the room seemed out of place for a man known for his chaotic lifestyle. Whispers of foul play began to circulate. Friends, family, and even casual acquaintances started to speculate about what really happened. Ted was a man who lived life on the edge, a man with enemies and secrets. His lifestyle had always been a double-edged sword, bringing him both fortune and danger. The police, sensing something more sinister at play, launched a full-scale investigation. They knew that, in a city like Las Vegas, appearances could be deceiving. The city held its breath, waiting for answers. The public, glued to their televisions, followed every twist and turn of the unfolding drama.
Who would want Ted Binion dead? The list of potential suspects was long, each with their own motives and secrets. And what secrets did he take to his grave? The more the investigators dug, the more they realized how little they truly knew about Ted's life.
The investigation quickly revealed a tangled web of relationships, addictions, and hidden agendas. Ted's life was a labyrinth of connections, each more complex than the last. The more the police dug, the more suspicious the circumstances surrounding Ted's death became. Every new piece of evidence seemed to point in a different direction. The overdose theory began to unravel, replaced by a more sinister possibility: murder. The detectives knew they were dealing with something far more complicated than they had initially thought. The question was no longer if Ted had been murdered, but who stood to gain the most from his demise. The answer to that question would lead them down a path filled with deception, betrayal, and greed. As the investigation into Ted Binion's death gained momentum, all eyes turned to those closest to him. The media frenzy was relentless, with every detail of the case being scrutinized and broadcasted to the public. At the center of the growing storm were two figures: Sandy Murphy, Ted's beautiful young girlfriend, and Rick Tabish, a shady contractor with a criminal past. Their lives were about to be dissected under the harsh glare of public scrutiny.
I was Ted's girlfriend, a former topless dancer. Our relationship was far from perfect. Our relationship was tumultuous, fueled by passion, jealousy, and Ted's volatile nature. We had our fair share of arguments, and Ted's struggles with addiction only made things worse.
Rick Tabish, on the other hand, was a man of ambition and questionable morals. He was always looking for the next big score, the next opportunity to make a quick buck. He had befriended Ted, offering his services for various projects on Ted's properties. To many it seemed like a mutually beneficial arrangement, but rumors swirled about Tabish's true intentions. Was he genuinely helping Ted, or was he using their friendship for his own gain?
Some whispered that he was manipulating Ted, taking advantage of his addiction for personal gain. The whispers grew louder as more details emerged. Taking advantage of his addiction for personal gain. It was said that Tabish had a knack for finding and exploiting people's weaknesses.
The police immediately zeroed in on Sandy and Rick, their suspicions growing with each passing day. The investigation was intense, with detectives working around the clock to piece together the puzzle, their suspicions growing with each passing day. Every new piece of evidence seemed to point in their direction. Both had motives, means, and questionable alibis. The case against them was building, and it seemed only a matter of time before the truth would come out. Sandy, as Ted's live-in girlfriend, stood to inherit a significant portion of his fortune. This fact alone made her a prime suspect in the eyes of many. Tabish, with his history of shady business dealings, seemed like the kind of man who wouldn't hesitate to get his hands dirty for the right price. His past was filled with questionable activities, making him an easy target for suspicion.
The investigation took a dramatic turn when authorities uncovered a chilling plot. It was a discovery that would change the course of the case. Just 2 days after Ted's death, Rick Tabish was apprehended at a Pahrump ranch owned by Binion. The circumstances of his arrest were suspicious, to say the least. He was caught red-handed attempting to unearth a hidden vault containing millions of dollars in silver. This discovery added a new layer of complexity to the case.
The discovery of this hidden treasure sent shockwaves through the investigation, adding another layer of intrigue to an already complex case. The detectives now had to consider the possibility of a premeditated plot, adding another layer of intrigue to an already complex case. The investigation was far from over, and the truth was still out there, waiting to be uncovered. As the case moved to trial, the courtroom became a battleground. Lawyers on both sides presented their arguments, each trying to sway the jury. The jury deliberated for days, weighing the evidence and testimonies. The fate of Sandy Murphy and Rick Tabish hung in the balance. Outside the courthouse, the media frenzy continued. Reporters and cameras were everywhere, capturing every moment of the high-profile trial. The public was captivated, following every twist and turn of the case. It was a story that had everything: love, betrayal, greed, and murder. In the end, the closing arguments were made, and the judge addressed the court. The jury's decision would soon be revealed, bringing an end to one of the most sensational cases in recent memory. The verdict was announced, and the courtroom erupted in reaction. The case of Sandy Murphy and Rick Tabish would be remembered for years to come. As the media packed up and the courthouse emptied, the story of Ted Binion's death and the subsequent investigation left an indelible mark on all who followed it. The case was closed, but the questions and mysteries it raised would linger, a testament to the complexities of human nature and the pursuit of justice. Ted Binion's life was one of extreme highs and lows, marked by moments of incredible success and deep despair. As a member of the famous Binion family, owners of the Horseshoe Casino, Ted was no stranger to the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas. However, behind the scenes, his life was a tumultuous roller coaster, fueled in part by his well-documented addiction to cocaine. This addiction was not just a minor aspect of his life, it was a driving force that influenced many of his decisions and actions. Ted's struggle with substance abuse was a secret that many in his inner circle knew, but rarely spoke about openly. His drug use, a closely guarded secret within Las Vegas high society, was an open secret among those who frequented the same circles. The parties, the late nights, and the constant pressure to maintain a certain image all contributed to his downward spiral, became a focal point of the investigation into his death. When Ted was found dead, the authorities quickly zeroed in on his drug use as a potential factor. The investigation revealed a complex web of relationships and dependencies that painted a grim picture of his final days.
My addiction, it seemed, had not only consumed me, but it also ensnared those around me. It was like a black hole, pulling in everyone who got too close. Friends, family, and even casual acquaintances found themselves caught in the chaos that my addiction created.
The investigation revealed that Ted's cocaine habit had spiraled out of control in the months leading up to his death. He was no longer just a casual user, he was deeply entrenched in a lifestyle that revolved around his next fix. The toll it took on his health and mental state was evident to those who saw him regularly. He was spending a fortune on drugs, draining his finances and putting himself in precarious situations. The amounts of money that changed hands were staggering, and it was clear that Ted was in over his head, often going on binges that lasted for days. These binges left him physically and emotionally drained, unable to function in any meaningful way. His home became a reflection of his inner turmoil, a chaotic mess that mirrored his state of mind. His erratic behavior and paranoia had alienated some of his closest friends and confidants. People who once stood by him found it increasingly difficult to deal with his unpredictable moods and irrational fears. The isolation only made things worse as Ted became more and more cut off from those who cared about him.
The prosecution would later argue that we had used Ted's addiction against him, suggesting that we had taken advantage of his weakened state. They painted a picture of manipulation and deceit, claiming that we had exploited his vulnerabilities for our own gain, manipulating him and exploiting his weakened state for our own gain. This narrative was compelling and added a layer of intrigue to the case, making it a media sensation.
The defense, however, painted a different picture. They argued that Ted's addiction was a personal struggle, one that he had battled for years. They claimed that those around him had tried to help, but ultimately, it was a fight that Ted had to face on his own.
They argued that Ted's addiction was a personal struggle, a demon he had been fighting for a long time. It was not something that could be easily overcome, and despite our best efforts, we were unable to save him from himself, one that Sandy and I had tried to help him overcome. We staged interventions, offered support, and did everything we could think of to pull him back from the brink. But addiction is a powerful force, and in the end, it was stronger than our efforts. They claimed that the prosecution was using Ted's addiction to sensationalize the case and prejudice the jury against us. They argued that the focus on his drug use was a distraction from the real issues at hand, a tactic to sway public opinion and ensure a conviction.
The truth, as is often the case, likely lay somewhere in between. Ted's addiction was a significant factor in his life and his death, but it was not the whole story. The complexities of his relationships, his business dealings, and his personal struggles all played a part in the tragic outcome. In the end, Ted's addiction became yet another tragic chapter in a life cut tragically short. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of substance abuse and the far-reaching impact it can have on everyone involved. The legacy of Ted Binion is a complex one marked by both brilliance and tragedy, a reminder of the fine line between success and downfall.